The Paladin. The good boy of Final Fantasy XIV, this class is your tried and true Holy Knight. From Circle of Scorn to Holy Spirit, Atonement to Clemency, you'll have plenty of opportunities to tip your fedora. To be honest, I've never liked Paladin, but that's not at all because of its power. This class has been in the meta since the beginning of Stormblood, meaning for almost 2 whole expansions now, Paladin has been an instant pick. The reason I don't enjoy it is because the White Knight and the Holy Warrior aesthetic has never really appealed to me. I'm a dumb warrior main with big fell cleave. With that being said, after spending some time on Paladin, I can understand why people enjoy this class. The rotation flows well, it's not overly complicated, and it fits the Holy Knight aesthetic well. In this video, I'm going to answer one simple question. Is it any good though? I'll be going over the leveling experience and how it feels to play while leveling, the level 80 toolkit and how it feels at max level, the power of Paladin and where it excels, as well as the downsides and what it lacks, its place in the meta, and its glamour potential. Let's get into it. Starting off with the leveling experience, Paladin is most likely the first tank you played. Paladin has often been referred to as the easy tank or beginner tank for years now, and when people are looking to get into tanking, they are almost always directed towards Paladin. The recent expansions have added on to Paladin's complexity, but the core toolkit is extremely simple and gets the job done. At level 2, you get Fight or Flight, your main damage cooldown, and it's just a simple 25% physical damage increase. In comparison to Berserk, it might not be as interesting, but it works and does provide a sizable increase to your damage. At level 6, you get Total Eclipse, and I felt like mentioning to those of you that are newer to the game, this skill didn't exist until Stormblood. Throughout A Realm Reborn and Heavensward, you had to use a deleted skill called Flash that literally did 0 potency. So just be happy that Paladin finally got an actual AoE skill. You get Rage of Halone at 26, finishing off your 1-2-3 combo, and at 54 you unlock Goring Blade, giving you a second combo finisher and extremely high potency dot. The interesting note here is that when you first unlock Goring Blade, it is actually a higher potency than Rage of Halone, so spamming it on repeat is a DPS increase until we get Royal Authority at 60. At level 64 we get Holy Spirit, but it's not worth casting it until 68 when we get Requiescat. This is when Paladin's complexity increases. You go from having 1 damage cooldown to 2, and now have 2 different damage phases. In one phase, you're using your combo skills, while in the other phase, you're casting spells. It might feel bad to have a cast time as a tank, but don't worry, at 78 your spells become instant cast under Requiescat. Let's quickly discuss tanking a leveling dungeon. You'll want to be spamming your AoE combo and trash packs as often as possible, while balancing your Rage of Halone combo and keeping up Goring Blade on single target. The rotation follows a 2-to-1 ratio, meaning you'll be going from Goring Blade into 2 Royal Authorities or Rage of Halones. That's where the meme of Goring Royal comes from. Defensively, remember to roll your cooldowns, trying to have some form of mitigation up at all times in a mob pack. With Paladin, you're missing a 3rd cooldown, and by that I mean you don't have an answer for Dark Mind, Thrill of Battle, or Camouflage. You'll want to treat Sheltron as your 3rd cooldown, since your gauge can be stacked to use it back to back. Your passive block chance should carry you through a Rampart or Sentinel, and you'll want to use Sheltrons in between the gaps of your bigger cooldowns or when your gauge is about to reach 100. Don't forget about Arm's Length and Reprisal. Using these is essential for dungeon mitigation on Paladin. You'll also want to use Hollowed Ground in your cooldown rotation, and you can generally get off 2 usages in a dungeon. Use it early on a big pack, and then again near the middle or the end of the dungeon in another big pack. The amazing part of Hollowed Ground is that it's the only invuln to fully prevent damage done, meaning you require no healing during it. I'd say if you plan to use Hollowed Ground in a pack, use it around 60% HP. By delaying it a bit, you actually prolong the amount of time you don't need healing, since being at 60% HP doesn't mean you're in immediate danger. So you made it to 80. How does it feel? The 70 to 80 additions to Paladin make this class feel so much better than previous expansions, putting Paladin in a solid spot for ease of use and flair. You finally get a Gap Closer, which should be changed to unlock at a lower level by the way, Square please, and an AoE spell to use inside Requiescat. You get a Sheltron duration increase, which should be baseline, Square please, and your hardest hitting skill, Confiteor. You also unlock Atonement, which basically replaces your double Royal Authority rotation, going with Goring Royal to Atonement. Honestly, with the 70 to 80 changes, Paladin went from a class I hated playing and wanted to avoid at all costs, to an okay class that I would still never main, but don't mind relaxing on during a stream or whatnot. This class is really great for casual tanking and just wanting a comfy class to relax on. However, on top of being comfy, it's also really satisfying. With Atonement, your rotation changes a bit, and after your Royal Authority you will use 2 Atonements and then Goring Blade, and then finishing off your last Atonement. I really like this style of gameplay. It's a small change to your rotation, but feels good and adds some sort of optimization feeling to Paladin. On top of that, Requiescat making your spells have no cast time is the biggest enjoyability buff this class has ever seen. Being able to run around and go wherever you want casting Holy Spirits is equally as funny as it is satisfying. Unfortunately, we still don't really find many uses for cover this expansion, but having both Divine Veil and Passage of Arms means you are a master of raid-wide mitigation. It feels good to mitigate raid damage as a Paladin. You feel like you're a support player with tons of options in your toolkit to use as needed. So what does a Paladin excel at? Honestly, this class doesn't really have any specific niche to it or an aspect that it's amazing at, but that's not a bad thing. Paladin is kind of good at everything, meaning in all scenarios it's a great option to bring to a raid. This is what contributes to Paladin being in the meta for years. It's not amazing and it won't blow your socks off with any specific aspect, but it's good at everything and has an answer for all the problems you can throw at it. Tank busters, you have Rampart, Sentinel, Sheltron, and Hollowed Ground. Raid-wide mitigation, you have Divine Veil, Passage of Arms, and Reprisal. Is your healer on the floor or AFK? You have Clemency and can become the healer for a short period of time. Though I don't recommend overusing Clemency. Don't be the person in this meme. Clemency is a powerful tool, but you should use it when it's needed, and not when you think it's needed. If there was one aspect I think Paladin excels in, it would probably be their invuln. Hollowed Ground is an insane invuln, the best of all of them. 10-second duration, no damage taken, you are saving healer GCDs and increasing raid DPS with this button. The cooldown may be long, but often using it twice in a fight is all you need. If you want a tank that is going to be good in every form of content and super relaxing to play, Paladin is a great choice. It's time we talk about the downsides to Paladin. The most obvious one at first glance is that it doesn't have a class-specific mitigation cooldown like Dark Mind, Thrill of Battle, or Camouflage. However, and this might be controversial, I don't think that takes away from Paladin's strength. Paladin is not often the main tank, and instead they are used as the supporting tank, meaning their cooldowns are up basically every time you need them. If you ever need to take over tanking the boss, stacking back-to-back Sheltrons is huge for mitigation. This class is really good at reducing auto attack damage. The common argument against Paladin is that it doesn't have a combo heal like Brutal Shell or Storm's Path or Soul Eater, but that doesn't really matter when you don't have full tanking uptime. The healing provided from those combo heals is pretty weak, and only adds up over the course of an entire fight when you're always losing health. If you're not primarily tanking the boss, then all that combo healing would just go towards overhealing, and that means Sheltron stacking actually mitigates more damage if you use Paladin correctly. Somehow I turned the downside section of this video into an upside, but anyways, another downside to Paladin is that their rotation is very strict, and you can't really delay your buffs to line them up with raid buffs. This tank, more than any other, hates downtime, and losing a few GCDs because you're not in melee range can completely throw off your rotation. You want to get 2 Goring Blades in Fight or Flight, and that can be difficult with downtime. If you want to optimize Paladin and perform well, then you need to really care about melee uptime and keeping up your rotation perfectly. If you misalign your Requiescat, then you might lose your Goring Blade uptime, or you might have to delay Requiescat to finish a Goring Blade combo, or you'll use Requiescat first and then delay a Fight or Flight to realign. It gets really messy when your rotation gets delayed. The last downside I want to bring up is the high potency of Confiteor. With the Requiescat buff, Confiteor becomes a 1200 potency attack, and that sounds really cool, right? Well, the problem with high potency skills is that the variance in the damage they will deal is huge when factoring in critical and direct hits. Your Confiteor can hit for 30k or for 70k. The variance is so wide because critical and direct hits are a multiplicative increase, meaning they will increase the damage done by a huge percentage because of how high the base potency is. I'm not really a fan of these huge potency attacks, and it just feels terrible to not crit when using them. Where does Paladin fall in the meta? Well, like I've said a few times in the video already, Paladin has been in the meta since Deltascape and Stormblood. I can't remember a time in the last 3 years that Paladin wasn't an automatic pick. They have great utility and almost no downsides when played well. Their damage is the second highest, meaning they're a great pick in speedruns, and they're a great pick in prog to push the enrages of bosses and support the chosen main tank. In prog, that's usually a Dark Knight. Whether you're progressing on new bosses or optimizing damage to down them as fast as possible, Paladin always brings something to the table. They might lack healing, but they make up for it with great party support, high damage, and recovery tools. The only time in recent history I can think of Paladin not being in the meta is during the Epic of Alexander Ultimate, where you would drop the Paladin for a Dark Knight. Dark Knights excel at 2-target cleave, which T is full of, and that means Dark Knights damage edged ahead of Paladins. For that reason, they were dropped. But aside from that one specific fight, Paladin has been in the meta for forever, it seems. They've come a long way from Heavensward, that's for sure. Lastly, let's discuss Paladin's glamour potential. As Paladin was one of the original 2 tanks released with the base game, they have been around forever and have tons of class-specific armor sets to choose from. The Paladin-themed armor fits really well with the Holy Knight aesthetic, and you'll have a great time creating Paladin glamour sets. My personal favorite is the newest edition, the Shadowbringers AF armor. I think it really makes you look like the stereotypical Paladin, which is awesome. The other important aspect of Paladin is that it's the only class in the game where you can flex all 3 ultimates at the same time, with a weapon from one, a shield from another, and a title from the third. Any triple legends in chat? So yeah, Paladin's glamour potential is one of the highest in the game. The artists that designed their gear sets did an amazing job, and if you're into the Paladin aesthetic, then you'll have a great time. Well, that about wraps it up. The Paladin. An all-rounder, jack of all trades, this class brings great damage and great utility. With holy spells and righteous attacks, Paladin is the perfect simp class for all you fedora-wearing neckbeards. Jokes aside, Paladin is in the best place it's ever been in, and you'll have a great time playing it. To answer the question, is it any good though? The answer is absolutely. This class is top tier. What an amazing tank. That's all I've got for you today, friends. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't, a dislike. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with my content, and check out my Patreon if you want to support me further. Follow me on Twitch for live streams, Twitter for tweets, and join my Discord to engage with me directly. All links are down in the description. Thanks so much for watching. Peace!